But what you won't find in God's 10 Commandments is what he said in the 11th commandment. Do not add to my law, do not take away from my law. This I command you. That's not my rendition, that's what it says. It says it again in verse 32 of the 12th chapter. Do not add to my law, do not take away. So when we see that happening as a direct command from God, not to add to his law, we know that when we see a bunch of other law that's added, oh, we need this one now, we need that one, oh, you can't go fishing without a license, oh, you're out after dark. Where's your ID? Oh, now you're a vagrant because you don't have ID and you don't have $10 in your pocket. So they throw you in jail. Oh, you don't have a house, so you're a vagrant, and they throw you in jail. You're a criminal because you don't have a house. You're a criminal because you don't have ID. You're a criminal because you don't have money. Now that's criminal. When one didn't recognize that they had the offer on the first preamble of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it says, whereas Canada is founded on the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Well, there it is. Once you give God supremacy, and they most surely did in the preamble of the Constitution, well then the rule of law that comes next after that recognition of God's supremacy is most surely and irrefutably God's law, because they certainly couldn't put man's law above God's law. Queen wouldn't take too kindly to that. National embarrassment. So we know for sure that the offer at the top of the charter is God's law. All the rest of it, well, that's the counter-offer. Man's law. They put the Bible right up at the top there for the bait, figuring out nobody reads Deuteronomy 4:2, and they probably never got to the 12th chapter to read verse 32, where it says, don't add to my law, don't take away from my law. So they've had this bait and switch campaign going on because people are basically ignorant of the law. The law's sitting right there in the black book, right there. Don't add to my law, don't take away from my law. Hello! But people have not read the Bible, or they certainly have not been told this by other ministers from the pulpit that are busy fleecing their flocks for the golden fleece. That's what largely has taken place with modern religion. Taking advantage of people's willingness to give money for the guilt of not getting it right. Well, instead of they should be taking that money and helping the less fortunate of the world and helping getting it right. So because of that, I thought, well, in observing all of that, and knowing we got something wrong, I thought it would be good to bring together more people that understood the power of your faith. We've certainly seen some of the major religions in the world stand up for their faith. In this country, we've had the Sikhs as a major news item, showing they can wear their kirpans, which are daggers, in school, on airplanes, in prisons. I'm not talking about the prisoners, I'm talking about visitors. The power of faith and beliefs supersedes anything you'll ever find in a courtroom. And my mission is to make people know that whatever their faith and beliefs are, as long as they're based in that first rule, don't hurt anybody and love your brother, and not sleeping on the job. You get that in the background.
Yeah, I know.
Edit! Hey, Don!
Yo!
Hey, we don't need the snoring in the background. Not going to be good for the audience.
Still rolling?
Yeah. So anyways, sometimes all of this stuff can be long and boring and put people to sleep, no doubt. That's why it's so hard to come out of it, because it's been designed to be so obscure that when you try and tell people about it, it gets kind of long-winded. And remember, this system of deception has been taking place for 4,000 years, ever since Leviticus chapter 25, verses 40 through 53, sprung up. God said, spoke through the Word, the guy who wrote it down, that to go enslave them people who are going to be false God worshippers. Well, I guess the more false God worshippers we can create, the more slaves we will have. Well, that's good mathematical and financial knowledge. Unfortunately, it has to be totally decrepit and not following the love of your brother as you would yourself. So there is a group of people that are around today that are the same kind of group of people that were the money changers that Christ kicked out of the temple. In the good book there, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. these people recognized that there would be people out there using Roman money, and they would wish to come to the temple and pay their Hebrew temple tax of 1/2 shekel per year per man. And having owning the Roman money, they would have to trade it with the money traders, who were charging them more Roman money than what the Hebrew shekel was worth. Christ caught wind of what was going on, and the fact that they were doing it within the temple, and he was outraged. This was sacrilege. They were using a false god's money to exchange to buy the shekels so that they could pay the temple tax, which is blasphemy, a violation of God's law, absolutely, without a doubt. And so he was incensed. One of the few times in the Bible, in the Scriptures, in the Gospels, that we see Christ get angry. And by that angry, I mean he whipped them and beat them with a braided hemp cord, so they would get the message. Well, unfortunately, those same people who didn't like that too much, because they spoiled the deal they had going with Caesar there, they conspired and had him crucified and murdered. Well, it's not like those people were the ones crucified and murdered, or all of a sudden they became extinct. Christ gave us some words to describe them. He called them the synagogue of Satan. Now, because of that statement, Christ himself was vilified by that particular group of people. And I'll be the first to say, some of the finest people I've ever met in my life are following the Hebrew Scriptures and following the Hebrew law. It's unfortunate that some people have decided to use those Hebrew Scriptures